When I look at businesses, I believe in buying rock solid, good businesses that can transition well to a new buyer who is the right buyer for that business. And it's a business that can grow with you as the new owner. Let's talk about the 10 commandments and why these 10. The first thing is these keep buyers from going off the rails. They are what I consider to be the ultimate guardrails for individuals buying businesses as you go through the various steps in this process. They're a vehicle to validate every opportunity, and they evaluate the business and you during the business buying process and as the potential owner. The businesses, I believe, must subscribe to all 10. Some of these may be in place already, but if they're not and they can't be done, I wouldn't buy the business. The 10 commandments also remove the emotion from the decision-making buying process. Okay. And as you go through this whole journey, you're going to see there's tons of decisions that you're going to have to make. And so going back to these throughout the process keeps you level-headed and again provides you with what I believe to be the ultimate guardrails. And you want to be able to test them repeatedly at every stage as you learn more and more about each business. So commandment number 1 is pay for the past, consider the present, but you buy the business for the future. And what this breaks down to as follows. When you pay for the past, that's related to the financials. That's the financial component of the business as you're going to be evaluating it using historical financial data, statements, etc. So you pay for the business. The price you pay for the business is based upon the past. You have to, of course, consider the present, which is what's happening with the business right now. Is it up? Is it down? Is it going sideways? Are there problems? So there's consideration given to what am I getting immediately, but you are buying it for the future. In other words, what does the future look like for the business, for you in the business, for the growth of potential of the business, for the overall sector? What are the opportunities? What are the potential headwinds? And so what happens oftentimes is individuals actually flip this commandment and they start to value businesses based on the future. And that is a terrible mistake. First of all, you can't predict the future. If you can, call me up, we go to Las Vegas together. But you can't pay for the future because you don't know what the future holds. You pay for the past. And so understanding of the role of the past, the present, and the future is critically important. That's commandment number 1. Commandment number 2 is buy a good business and make it great. The name of our program is How to Buy a Good Business at a Great Price. I believe in good, rock solid businesses and understand. You think about it this way. I call it the 3 G's on the hill. G as in the letter G. Every business starts out when it's a startup or at the beginning is at the bottom of the hill. And that G stands for garbage. Every startup is just, you're trying to predict what the business is going to be. You have no clue. At the beginning, it's garbage when it starts off. It's a garbage business. At the top of the hill are great businesses. Okay. In the middle are good businesses. That's where you should be thinking about acquiring a business when it's in the good stage. And the reason being is, number 1, of course, you want to be past the garbage in the startup stage. And you know the statistics with startups are abysmal of the number of failures. So when you buy a good business in the middle, it's already gone through all that startup phase. Now, you don't have to have a criteria to get business has to be 15 years old, whatever, but you want it to be past all the heartache and the heartburn that came with the startup. So it's in the middle of the good stage. And the reason why you wanted it good and not great is because you want to have that trajectory. You want to be the new owner that takes it on the path from good to great. Now, every business ultimately at some point in time it gets to a pinnacle and it drops, and sometimes it's a few years. Excuse me. Sometimes it's 25 years or 100, but that's the life cycle of a business from garbage, good, great. Then it drops off. So you want to be right in the middle and buy a good business, rock solid, that you can take along the way and make it great. Commandment number 3 is ingredients are nothing without a recipe. And what's important to keep in mind here is you'll look at a lot of businesses and they seem to have a lot of good things in place, or they have a lot of good things and they have a lot of bad things in place and things that are mismanaged and not managed well. So you have to take a look back and say, can I put the recipe in place to bring everything together? Because ingredients are nothing without a recipe. It's like if you ever watch that show Top Chef and they send them to Whole Foods and tell them they got to buy, a carrot, three pieces of meat, a potato, and something else completely ridiculous, and peaches. And they look at this and then and they're able to look at it and say, I can make a recipe out of this. Right. And if you follow a recipe, ingredients on their own, I mean, if you were to put all the ingredients out for a recipe and you don't put them together in the right components, you're just going to have a mess on your hand. But if you follow a recipe, it's like anything else. You'll arrive at a good outcome. And so when you look at a business, you have to look and say, okay, they've got all these ingredients, but can I put together the proper recipe to make sure everything gels together? Commandment number 4 is fall in love with the profit potential, not the product. And understand when you go through this process, you want to stay as logical as possible at every stage of the business buying process. But emotion starts to kick in. And people very often with high levels of interest in certain categories, and might be health related or related to animals or certain hobbies that they may have, they start to focus on the product and falling in love with, oh, this wonderful product. And you start to take your eye off the ball of the profit. Because one thing I can assure you, no matter how much you love the product, if the business cannot make money, you'll learn to hate the product really quickly. It's similar to what happens when people who try to buy businesses and turn hobbies into businesses. And very often it doesn't work, because what happens is you end up spending all the time in your business working and you have no time for your hobby. And they end up falling in love. They're in love with the product and not the profit. And so what I like to do when I look at a business, the product is inconsequential. We'll get a little deeper on that because there is a drop down to that, of course. But I look at every product as being like like a flapper in a toilet bowl. You know, the flapper is that thing like when you pull the chain. I found I'm aging myself when you put the thing down, the flapper opens up, the water goes down. So I look at everything like a flapper. It's nothing more exciting than that to me. And so it allows me to keep focusing on the profit and not the product. And it's very important because it's very easy to start falling in love with the product as you go through, but you've got to stay level-headed. Commandment number 5 is do what you do best and you'll manage the rest. I'm not going to regurgitate what we talked about in the first session a couple of weeks ago, but it's critically important. The overarching theme here in the mantra that I've been teaching and preaching for 20-something years and has worked so successfully is whatever it is that you do best has to be the single most important driving factor of any of the revenue and profits of any business you consider purchasing. For everything else, you can hire. So when you're looking at a business, it's critical that whatever it is that you do best matches the driver, the revenue, and the profits of the business, because for everything else, you can automate or hire. For commandment number 6, this is called autopilot, which is putting the business on cruise control. And when you're looking at a business, you can make the determination of either do they have automation in place, or can automation be implemented into the business? Because the only way to grow in almost every case is to start automating as many policies, procedures, and processes as possible. We have actually someone who's hopefully on the call, Ethan. We had a conversation this week about a business that he's looking at. And one of the things was he so astutely was able to identify a piece that can be put on autopilot and will become very effective. One of the things was, it's the timing to do that, because you don't want to make many changes, if any, or none at all, when you first take over till you learn the business. But having the recognition and be able to put on the lens of what can I automate? What can I put on onto cruise control in the business? And there's so much technology and inexpensive technology that you can apply to businesses. So some of these businesses have them in place. Other ones, you need to determine whether or not you can do it. Commandment number 7, no one is bigger than the game and what holds the gold. Now, there's a bunch of examples that I have of this, but you have to understand really what is the gold and the luster in the business. And one of the examples that I've used many times and talk about in great detail in the course is this business that I grew up in Montreal. And in one part of Montreal, there's a place called Walensky's, and they sell a sandwich. They've been around for probably, I'm sure it's 100 plus years now. They sell a sandwich, which is like it's a roll with onion on top, and there's cold cut slices inside, and they press it down real small, and they wrap it up in a napkin and give it to you. I think the sandwich is completely disgusting personally, but people line up and out the door and have been for years buying this sandwich. It's called a special. And when you walk into this place, nothing has changed in this place in 100 years. You walk in this place, they still make soda the old-fashioned way with the scoop and the syrup and the bubbly water, and stir it up with a big, the guy uses a spoon about this big, stirs it up, and you get a cherry Coke or a Coke or orange or whatever it is. And the sodas that I admit are fantastic, but nothing has changed in this place. And when you walk in there, it's like getting thrown back to 100 years. And again, people line up as long as they're open. I think they're open 6 days a week. It's always jam-packed. I don't even think they have tables, as I recall. But when the old man, Mo Walensky, died, I had thought about buying this business, and it was in a location right near where my parents grew up, and they used to go to that place as kids and whatever, and I thought it would be absolutely phenomenal to buy this business, and my parents would go absolutely bonkers if I did. I thought it'd be great. And so I was sitting around with a couple of buddies at the time, saying, hey, maybe we should buy Walensky's, right? And we started going through the idea and talking about it and having a good conversation. And one of my buddies, who happens to be a top tier accountant in Canada, he said, yeah, it'd be great. He said, we got to change that place. He said, we got to put in some new furniture, and the way they don't even give you a plate. And I don't understand what they're scooping or whatever. We might have some bottled drinks and whatever. And it was like, whoa, 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 time out. The whole reason for the success of this business, the gold of this business, is that when people walk into this place, they're being taken back in time, like 100 years. It's a real throwback. That's the gold of the business. If you were to make those changes to the business, I guarantee you'd be out of business in a month. And so understanding what the gold is critical. And as it turns out, the families, and I think it's the third generation, we couldn't buy it. I tried as best as I could. I couldn't buy it. The family wouldn't sell it to me. They wanted to keep it in the family. One of these, no matter what, we're keeping it in the family, no matter what you offer us, and which I really respect. And I'm glad that they did that, because, the tradition continues. And then another one recently was a transaction that was involved. It was in the automotive aftermarket business, and was a very complicated, popular product, but complicated. And people would partial order online, but they would also call up because they needed some. It was a do-it-yourself item, but they needed some instructional help and what have you. And the service level of the techs were tech people were very important to explain to people how to install this product. And the new owners decided that they're going to put this onto all into automated chat. So when people had a question, they would just sell it, like those virtual chats that you do. And the business has started to tank as a result, because the gold in the business, when people bought this product, and it was an expensive product, do-it-yourself item, the gold in this business is that they can call up and get a very high level of service and an installation, instructions and guidance. And so again, commandment number 7, knowing what holds the gold in the business, is critical. Commandment number 8 is, so what do you do for a living? You want to be able to explain the business simply. Obviously, if it's too complicated to explain, it's probably too complicated to operate. But you want to be able to explain the business when someone says to you, so what type of work do you do? It's got to be, you want to be concise, enthusiastic, and say it with pride. And so when you have to be super proud of your business and what you do, because you're going to be out selling and promoting and building it every day. So if you can't explain the business or present yourself in business situations, or even in the public at large, with enthusiasm and excitement and pride about the business, it's if you can't do that, the business is probably not for you. Commandment number 9, what's not perfect yet? Now, there's no such thing as a perfect business. Every business has blemishes. Every business has problems. You're going to mitigate those during the business buying process. However, when you look at the business and you're doing your evaluation, you want to be able to look at everything and say, okay, what's not perfect in the business right now, as best that I can understand it? How can I fix it? Can I fix it? How can I fix it? And what are the costs to doing so? And so being able to fix all those potential blemishes. Now, if there's some major problems, of course, that you cannot fix, for example, if there's a high degree of customer concentration, whereby a disproportionate number of a disproportionate percentage of the revenue of the business comes from too few customers and you can't fix that. Well, it's not perfect now, and chances are you can't fix it. And so you have to walk, and you have to have the discipline to walk. Conversely, is being able to look at some of these things and say, can I make them perfect? Okay. And commandment number 10 is, what's it worth to you? Very important not to get so hung up on the deal that you forget why you're buying a business. You're buying a business because you want to change your life. You're buying a business because you want to improve your life. You're buying a business because you want to be able to grow and build something. You're buying a business because you want to be able to work with others and empower others and help others and improve your lifestyle. And you're buying a business because you know for every dollar of value that you add in the business, you add to the business, you're going to get 3, 4, 5 times that out when you go to sell the business. But it's the old story of not, seeing the forest for the trees. Sometimes people get so deep into the weeds of the deal that they forget the reason why you're buying a business is because you're buying a business for the benefits that it's going to deliver to you and your family and your professional career over a reasonable period of time. Personally, I'm always prepared when I've got to the end of what I'm willing to pay for a business. I'm always willing to pay a premium over and above that by at least 5%. And I've looked at some of these things where, a $500,000 difference over the time that I going to own the business is like, $150 a day or something. It's like nothing. So don't get stuck into the weeds. Understand this is a personal decision, what it is worth to you and what you're trying to achieve in your life by buying a business. And there's going to be, there's ups and downs. I mean, it's not all easy operating a business, of course not. But it's the benefits that you're going to have from that business. That's what you're buying. And so don't lose sight of what you want this business to deliver versus getting so, crazy and drawing red lines in the sand and red flags and deal breakers and all these things. And you're not prepared to move up another dollar. Don't get crazy with that stuff. Take a step back and understand, what is it worth to you? And so there you have these 10 commandments. These have the genesis of these has been from thousands of transactions. A lot of these are dear to my heart that I've seen work over and over again in countless transactions, and I've seen the flip side where people, if you don't pay attention to these, you end up oftentimes failing or making very expensive mistakes that sometimes it's hard to recover from. So keep these in mind. You want to keep going back to them as you go through various stages, looking at a particular business, and keep putting the business through this stress test.